Bitcoins have been on a tear lately, and just this week, soaring to a new high. One Bitcoin equals $8,200. Now, some are even tipping for a 10K finish this year. Yes, that's $10,000. Traded like a foreign currency, according to some, this red-hot cryptocurrency has been called many things. Digital gold, the future of money, some even fraud. While it has gained a lot of traction and attention in recent years, is it ready to go mainstream? Here in Manila, joining us this morning is Miguel Antonio Cuneta, the co-founder of Satoshi Citadel Industries, which builds a blockchain ecosystem in the country. Good morning, Miguel. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Michelle.
So this is your bread and butter. It's a very complicated, it's a very complicated process. How do you explain, very simply, Bitcoins and its use of the blockchain technology?
So, it's going to be a little bit difficult to explain it in like a minute, but I'm going to try my best.
Okay.
Bitcoin is actually two things. The most popular side of it is the money side, which is online currency. It's a digital currency. It allows people to send money to each other online. And this is why it's in the news. The price, like you said, it's almost $10,000 for one Bitcoin right now. Another thing is that it's a technological platform. So it's actually a new invention, invented in 2008 by an anonymous programmer named Satoshi Nakamoto. And he basically, before Bitcoin was invented, we had to transfer value online using a third party. But with Bitcoin, you can transfer from person A to person B without anyone in the middle. So that's what makes it kind of a groundbreaking new technology.
And of course, the blockchain technology, you can imagine there's a lot of math that go into that. For example, every transaction has its own code, I believe, right?
Yes, so blockchain is actually the way Bitcoin keeps track of all the transactions.
So this is like a ledger.
It's a one big public ledger, yes.
But Miguel, you mentioned that this technology basically takes out the middlemen. No regulators, no SEC, no Banco Central, no government, no banks, no credit card companies. Is that, some are worried that there's just too much, there's just too little safeguards in the process.
I'm sorry?
Because in the use of Bitcoins, you take out the middlemen who are the regulators, the banks, you've got government regulators there. Some are worried that it's just not regulated at all. That any person can use it for scam and nobody can go after them because there is no regulator.
So it's actually, the technology behind Bitcoin is kind of like hard to regulate itself. It's just like trying to regulate the internet. What you can do is what the central bank has done in the Philippines and what a lot of people are following suit in other central banks in the world is they're regulating the companies that are exchanging Bitcoin into the local currencies. So that's what happened to us. The central bank said that, okay, we will make sure that the businesses dealing with Bitcoins are regulated businesses.
Okay, of course, you are just one of two Bitcoin exchanges that have gotten the license from Banco Central. Congratulations on that. But Miguel, I want to ask, what safeguards does the Bitcoin system have?
The Bitcoin system itself is probably the most secure online network in the world. Because it's public and all the records are viewable by anybody in the world. It's really hard to cheat. So if you try to make a fake Bitcoin transaction, everyone will see it and they will not approve it.
What about hacking? Is that not a big concern? Because everything is virtual. Everything's just so virtual that, hacking could be a big threat.
The threat of hacking, it's been 9 years since Bitcoin was invented, and so far, it hasn't been hacked. So we're on a good track right there. Anything online is actually vulnerable to hacking. Bitcoin is using a different system than what we're used to today. There's no central point of failure in Bitcoin, so you're gonna have to hack every computer thousands of computers around the world that are running the Bitcoin software.
So just so our audience will have a clearer picture, for example, you and me, we have I want to pass on some Bitcoins to you. I have a wallet, a digital wallet with its own code, a numerical code. You have yours. When I pass it on, thousands of computers will verify the deal, the exchange, before, and then that transaction goes into a ledger, right? There are multiple ledgers and a central ledger that is open to everyone, right?
Yes, there's actually no central ledger. It's just one ledger that everybody shares.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So everybody's updating and syncing their ledgers. This is all done automatically, by the way. There's no one manually doing this.
Oh, wow. And it's all done by computers who do the math,
Yes.
who crunch the numbers. I know that there are many Filipinos who have been into Bitcoin mining. What exactly do the miners do? They're the ones who verify, right? How do they verify?
So Bitcoin mining, you actually just run a software. You install it in your computer and you turn it on, and that's it. You don't really do anything. It just contributes your computer's computing power to the network. And it helps process transactions and transmit data about what's happening in the network. So if I send, let's say, Bitcoins to someone, I actually broadcast a signal to different nodes around the world, and they say, okay, this is Miguel is sending 1 Bitcoin to Michelle, and then they will verify that I have the Bitcoins to do that, and that the address I'm sending it is valid. So this is all they're doing.
Miguel, let's talk about the value of Bitcoin. The price has been very volatile. This year alone, Bitcoin value is up more than 8 times. Now, some are concerned this is a bubble that will eventually burst. You know, I was going over some articles last night, and I did see one, no less than Warren Buffett, already raising red flags, saying, if something is virtual, does it exist in the real world? Really a word of caution from a very famous investor there. What do you think?
Well, Warren Buffett's known to be kind of averse to technology. Well, you know, the thing about Bitcoin is, for the past, I don't know, ever since I got involved in it, they've been calling it a bubble. So when it went from $0 to $1, people were already calling it a bubble. When it went to $100, people said it was a bubble. When it went to $1,000, people said it was a bubble. So, I don't know about that.
That is a very fair answer to the question, Miguel. So, what are the risks that the Bitcoins, because the value has been very volatile and we don't really know. I imagine this is still dictated by supply and demand, right? That's why the prices go up, because demand is going up, right? So, what is the risk that Bitcoins will be another pump and dump scenario, for example, being used for price manipulation?
Okay, so right now, when Bitcoin was new, some people could control the market probably, but right now it's about $135 billion market. And it's the most interesting thing about Bitcoin is not the price of Bitcoin compared to a dollar. It's actually the technology behind it. And this is why, I don't know, over $4 billion have been invested in Bitcoin companies and Bitcoin startups and Bitcoin technology that's trying to solve real-world problems. That's, for example, in the Philippines, you know, like cheaper remittances or faster money transfers. These are the things that Bitcoin can enable. And it's very valuable.
Yes, I have met people who actually use Bitcoins, and they're saying, you know, the transaction fee is very small, so they get more bang for their buck there. Yeah, so you mentioned that the Bitcoin market is estimated at $135 billion. But do we know how many of these Bitcoins actually have economic value versus Bitcoins that were used in scams? Because there is no shortage of scams involving Bitcoins.
I think any kind of new technology, you'll always have the criminals trying to take advantage of people who are new to it. It's just like when the internet was new, you had a lot of these email scams. It doesn't make email a bad thing. Actually, even now, like online fraud is like rampant and it still is widespread. And Bitcoin could actually help stop online fraud and online fraud in e-commerce.
Okay. Now, if you look at the government side, the big banks, some of them are actually getting into the Bitcoin action. I know that Russia tried Ethereum, and there are other governments who are trying to experiment with their own digital currencies. What about the Philippines? Miguel, in your take, how ready is the Philippines, our Filipinos, our Philippine banks, and the central bank for the future that is Bitcoin?
Well, number one, our Governor Espinilla already said that they're not there yet. They're not considering tapping into cryptocurrencies for local Philippine pesos. But if anything, we're one of the first countries, if not the first, central bank in the world to actually have regulations for Bitcoin companies like us. So we're actually leading the pack right now, and a lot of people are looking at the Philippines as a hotbed for innovation in the cryptocurrency and blockchain industry.
But so far, the cryptocurrency or Bitcoins is still used in relation to its conversion to an actual currency. Do you ever see a future where transactions will just be Bitcoins? Bitcoin to Bitcoin, I buy products from you using Bitcoins, I get something like that.
Right now, possibly yes. In the near future, probably it could happen. But people are used to pricing things in their own local currency, so it's much easier for people to say, "Hey, pay me, 1,000 pesos in Bitcoin." Or, I think that applications will be used where people don't even know they're using Bitcoin, but they're going to be using, let's say, an app, a wallet or a money app that uses Bitcoin under the hood. So you don't really need to understand the technology behind Bitcoin to use it.
And Miguel, do you have any idea how big the Bitcoin market is in the Philippines? And what is your outlook? What kind of growth will this market see over the next 3 to 5 years?
The market has grown a lot in the last 2-3 years since we've been in business. We've seen in our own business, we've seen double-digit growth in terms of transaction volumes and user acquisitions. There are some Bitcoin companies. There's another Bitcoin company in the Philippines that has like over 1 million users. It's growing quite fast, and I don't even think we've reached the inflection point where it reaches the mainstream. So there's still a lot of room for growth.
Wow, exciting times indeed, and you are in the middle of it. Thank you very much for joining us this morning, Miguel. Thank you for your insights.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.